Welcome to Naughty Relationship Stories, where passion, drama, secrets, and unexpected twists come alive. It had been 6 years since I'd last seen him. 6 years since I left his house for the final time, sore, trembling, and promising myself I'd never go back. And now he was standing in my kitchen, smiling, confident, wearing one of his power suit that said life had been very good to him. "Derek," my husband said, clapping him on the back. "This is my wife, Lila." His eyes met mine. Not a flicker of surprise. Not even the tiniest hesitation. "Pleasure," he said, reaching out like we'd never met before. But I remembered those hands. Exactly where they used to touch me. Exactly how they used to make me come apart. I forced a smile and shook his hand. "Nice to meet you," I lied. What Marcus didn't know, what he could never know, was that Derek wasn't just my ex. He used to be my sugar daddy when I was in college. I was 21, broke, hungry, and barely surviving on campus when I met him at an alumni charity event. He was 35, divorced, successful, and interested. Our arrangement started simple. Dinners, gifts, cash for tuition. But it didn't stay simple for long. He introduced me to a world of late-night penthouse rendezvous, silk sheets, and pleasures I wasn't prepared for. He was patient, generous, brutal when he wanted to be, and I was addicted, until I cut it off. I convinced myself I could have a normal life with a normal man. Marcus, sweet, trusting, hardworking Marcus, was that man. And now Derek, he was sitting in our home, drinking a beer from our fridge, congratulating Marcus on a new beginning. While I stood there in my sundress, heart pounding, legs tight together, pulse racing with memories I'd buried and tried to forget. He glanced at me again, just a second too long. Not disrespectful, just knowing. And when Marcus stepped out to take a call, Derek leaned closer and said it, quiet, low, just for me. "You married well, Lila. You really cleaned up." I swallowed hard. "You should leave," I whispered. He smirked. "You really think I didn't know whose husband I was hiring?" Then he winked, finished his drink, and walked into the backyard like nothing had happened. My knees went weak, because I already knew this was going to be a problem. A very big, very tempting problem. Marcus left early the next morning, suitcase in one hand, coffee in the other, grinning like a man whose life was finally taking off. "I'll only be gone 3, maybe 4 days, he said, kissing my forehead. "You'll be fine without me, right?" I smiled, nodded, held the door open. I didn't tell him that the second he pulled out of the driveway, my phone buzzed with a message I'd been dreading. "Derek. Country house. 6 p.m. tomorrow. Don't make me ask twice." No emojis. No pleasantries. Just pure control. I sat with it for hours, heart in my throat. I could have ignored it. I should have. But we both knew I wouldn't. Not because I was afraid of him, but because deep down I knew exactly why he wanted me there. And a darker part of me wanted it too. I couldn't sleep that night till the following day. When it was 4 p.m. I left my house to his place. The drive to his country house was long and quiet. A lake, a long gravel path, trees that swallowed you whole. It was stunning, secluded, expensive, designed for secrecy. I stepped inside and he was already waiting. No jacket. Just a fitted black shirt rolled up at the sleeves, whiskey in hand, the collar slightly open like he knew exactly how to weaponize the memory of our past. "Glad you came," he said like we were old friends. I didn't sit. "I'm not here to play games, Derek." "Good," he replied smoothly, "because I don't play." He walked over slowly, circling me. "I sent your husband to a safe, easy assignment. Great exposure, zero stress." "You're welcome." My jaw clenched. "What do you want?" He stopped behind me, close enough to make my skin heat. "What I always wanted," he murmured. "I want you right here without all your guilt dressed up as loyalty." I turned to face him, pulse thudding. "This is blackmail," I said. "No," he said calmly. "This is your reminder that everything he has he owes to you." His hand brushed my wrist. Soft and intentional. "I want one night," he said. "You give me that and your husband never gets so much as a speed bump in his new career. You disappear and I can't promise anything." My voice trembled. "That's low even for you." He smirked. "Low is how you liked it. Remember." I hated how my body reacted. How the ache in my stomach didn't feel like fear. How everything in me screamed to leave. But my feet didn't move. He stepped back, giving me space. The guest room's upstairs, he said casually, walking to refill his glass. You've got 10 minutes to decide who you're really protecting. And then he left me standing there, shaking, ashamed and burning. Because the truth? I wasn't deciding whether or not I'd go upstairs. I was deciding how long I'd pretend to resist. I didn't move. When he came back downstairs and found me still standing in the middle of his living room, shoulders tense, hands shaking, eyes defiant. Something in me had already given in. He could see it. He always could. Derek stepped closer. No words. Just the sharp sound of his belt sliding through the loops as he pulled it free. Not threatening, just deliberate. I swallowed hard. I see your memories still intact, he said. Good, because I don't feel like starting from scratch. The air between us turned heavy, hot. My heart pounded as he slowly circled me, his presence overwhelming, familiar and dangerous. I hated how my body responded, how my skin tingled just from the sound of his voice, how a deep ache stirred low inside me at the way he looked at me, like I was still his. And then he whispered it right at my ear. Neil. I froze. Not out of fear. Out of recognition. Because the last time he said that, I did. Without hesitation. Just like I did now. And the moment I sank to the floor, I knew I was back in a world I thought I'd escaped. A world where he was in control, and I wanted it that way. Derek didn't speak right away. He stood above me, the slow rise and fall of his chest the only sign of tension. His fingers brushed my cheek, then tilted my chin up until my eyes met his. Good girl, he murmured with a smug satisfaction that sent heat curling low in my belly. The way he looked at me, like he knew every part of me was already his again. Open. It was a command, soft but impossible to resist. And I obeyed. Derek didn't move. He just watched me, heat flickering in his eyes like he could already feel what was coming. I reached for his belt slowly, deliberately. Not as a favor. Not as a plea. But as a choice. My fingers slid across the leather, undoing it one notch at a time. The sound was quiet but electric. He braced one hand against the wall behind him, exhaling hard as I pulled it free. You're gonna kill me, he muttered under his breath, voice tight with tension. I glanced up at him, but I didn't say anything. Instead, I took my time. Because I loved watching him come undone. This man, powerful, controlled, always 3 steps ahead, reduced to heavy breathing and clenched fists, undone by the woman he thought he'd left in the past. His fingers threaded through my hair as I kept going, slow, intentional, teasing him right at the edge of breaking. Every movement made him tremble just a little more, his breathing ragged, his body straining toward mine like he couldn't help himself. There was something almost beautiful in it. This silent surrender, the way he let go completely. And when he finally pulled me up, he led me to the guest room as his hands gripped my waist firmly, guiding me to the edge of the bed like he was setting a scene he'd replayed in his mind 100 times. Lie back. The mattress dipped under my weight, cool sheets against flushed skin. He didn't rush. Instead, he opened that drawer and pulled out things I'd nearly forgotten. Things he used to introduce slowly, carefully when I was still learning the depths of what submission could feel like. Only now. He wasn't introducing anything. He was reminding me. Silk restraints. A blindfold. That familiar click of something being set on the nightstand. Every sound sent a fresh wave of anticipation coursing through me. Hands up. My wrists were bound, not tight, just enough to keep me there, exposed, waiting. My breath came in shallow gasps, every nerve alive with the memory of his touch before he'd even laid a hand on me. And when he finally did, trailing his fingers down the length of my body, teasing, pausing just long enough to make me squirm, he smiled. I never forgot how responsive you were, he said. You feel everything. Even when I barely touch you. I was already trembling. But he didn't let up. He leaned down, lips brushing just beneath my ear. You're going to take everything I give you tonight. Every single thing. Do you understand? I nodded. I need to hear it. Yes, I whispered. I understand. Good. Because when Derek decided to take control, there was no hesitation, no indecision, just total focus. He read my body like a book he'd already memorized. And by the time he finally slid inside me, I was wrecked. Completely, utterly wrecked. It wasn't just the sensation. It was the ownership. The way he moved. The way he held me down, whispered filthy memories in my ear like prayers. Forced me to feel every inch of him like I'd never belonged to anyone else. Pleasure and ache, control and surrender, all blurred together in one long, dizzying collapse of self-control. And through it all, I realized something horrifying and undeniable. I hadn't just missed this. I'd needed it. I must have fallen asleep for a while. The room was dim now, soft shadows stretching across the bed, the fire in the hearth flickering low and lazy. My body ached in the best and worst ways. Muscles I forgot I had trembled from the hours I'd spent under his control. I could still feel the phantom pressure of his hands on my hips, his voice in my ear, his breath against my skin. Derek laid next to me, one arm draped behind his head, the other lazily tracing lines across my bare stomach like he had all the time in the world. No guilt. No remorse. Just satisfaction. "You're still the best," he said quietly, voice thick with pride. "Did you miss being ruined?" I turned my face away, but I didn't answer. Because the answer lived in the way I was still pressed against him. In the bruises I wasn't hiding. In the way my body hummed. Suddenly my phone buzzed on the nightstand. My entire chest seized. It was Marcus. Derek's hand stilled on my stomach. "Answer it," he said, tone flat. I reached for the phone with trembling fingers, but he got there first, plucked it from the table like it belonged to him. He turned the screen toward me. "Your husband," he said casually. "He must have missed you." I lunged to take it, but he pulled it back just out of reach. "You answer it," he said, voice dropping, "or I will." My heart nearly stopped. "Please," I whispered. He smirked. "Then do it." I hit the green button and turned my head sharply, trying to find composure. My voice shook as I lifted the phone to my ear. "Hey babe." Marcus's voice was warm, sweet and innocent. "Hey, just checking in," he said. "The conference is going great. I'll be back late tomorrow or early the next morning. You okay?" I forced a breath. "Yeah, I'm okay. Just resting." The lie barely passed my lips before Derek's hand slipped beneath the sheets, fingers bold and deliberate as they traveled along my inner thigh. My body jolted from the touch, not because I didn't expect it but because I did. Every move he made was slow, unhurried, filled with the kind of control that made me breathless. On the other end of the line, Marcus was still talking. I heard the gentle clatter of silverware in the background and imagined him at some business hotel buffet, sipping black coffee, trusting every word I said. "Did you eat anything yet?" he asked, his voice thick with concern. "You sound low." If only he knew how far I'd sunk. I'm fine," I said quickly, clearing my throat as Derek's hand curved higher, stopping just where it would break me. My eyes flicked toward him, silently pleading, but he only grinned, a wicked slow curl of his lips as he pressed a kiss to my bare shoulder, dragging it down to the small of my back. Marcus kept talking, and I kept pretending. "I miss you already," he said. Behind me, Derek moved, positioning himself deliberately, possessively, every part of his body commanding space I no longer had the will to protect. "Miss you too," I whispered, my voice thin. I felt Derek's breath against my neck as he leaned in close, his voice nothing more than a low murmur meant only for me. "Don't stop talking." He wasn't asking. He was playing. And I was caught in the middle, sandwiched between my husband's warm affection and the deep, dominant pull of the man who once owned every part of me. The line buzzed in my hand as Marcus continued. "We're heading out to the vineyards in an hour. It should be nice." I closed my eyes, gripping the phone like a lifeline. Derek's lips brushed my ear. "Tell him how cozy you are." I swallowed. "I'm still in bed. It's cold this morning. I didn't want to get up." Marcus laughed softly. "Wrapped up in blankets like a burrito, I bet." Something in me shattered at the innocence of it. Derek's hand moved again, this time pressing firm enough that I gasped. But I swallowed it, barely holding it back. "Yeah," I whispered, trembling. "Very warm." "So glad you're getting to rest," Marcus said gently. "I love you, Lila." The knife twisted. "I love you too," I replied, barely able to get the words out. And as soon as the call ended and the line went dead, I let the phone fall from my hand, hitting the floor with a dull thud. The silence in the room was deafening. Derek didn't speak. He simply stared at me, gaze sharp and unreadable as if memorizing the moment. I trembled beneath him, stripped down to truth and nothing else. The guilt was fresh in my chest, but so was something darker, deeper. He brushed a strand of hair from my face with surprising gentleness, but the softness didn't last. His fingers traced down my jaw, my collarbone, until they anchored firmly at my hip. He held me there, possessively, as his body slid over mine. You really told him you were resting, he said, lips brushing mine, while you were begging me with your eyes not to stop. I didn't deny it, because it was true. And I couldn't pretend anymore. He kissed me then, not sweet or slow but deep and claiming, like he was erasing the space between us, like he was reminding my body who it had always belonged to. I melted into it, wrapping my arms around his back as he pressed me into the mattress with the weight of 1,000 undone regrets. When he moved against me, it was deliberate. Every shift, every grind of his hips left no room to breathe, no room to hide. He devoured me with a kind of hunger that felt like vengeance and victory all at once. My nails scraped down his spine as I arched under him, head tilting back, throat exposed. He took advantage of it, leaving heated kisses along my neck, his breath hot and ragged against my skin. You feel that? He growled, voice thick with grit. That's not your husband. That's me, still inside you. And God help me, I loved every second of it. The headboard tapped rhythmically against the wall, the sheets a mess around us, the room filled with the breathless sounds of surrender and unspoken history. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't gentle. It was possession. And when it was over, when I was left shaking and boneless beneath him, unable to move or think or speak, he kissed my forehead the same way he used to and whispered, "You're going to leave him eventually. You know that, right?" I didn't answer. But deep down, somewhere in that raw, wrecked part of me, I already knew he was right. The ride home was quiet. The sun filtered through the car windows, but nothing about the light felt warm. I kept both hands on the steering wheel, gripping it like it could anchor me back to the woman I was supposed to be. The faithful wife, the responsible one, the woman who never ever would have. I didn't even let myself finish the thought. Every bump in the road made me hyper-aware of how sensitive I still was. My skin tingled where Derek's hands had been. My lips still felt bruised from his kisses. I could still hear his voice in my ear, low, dangerous, devastatingly sure. You're going to leave him eventually. You know that, right? I pulled into the driveway just past noon. The house looked exactly the same, safe, ordinary, innocent. I parked, grabbed my bag and let myself in with a deep breath. I headed straight for the laundry room. The silk dress and lingerie I'd worn to Derek's were balled up in my overnight tote, wrinkled and still carrying the faintest trace of his cologne. I shoved them into the washer like evidence, drowning them in detergent and steam, as if that could wash the memory off my skin too. Then I took a long warm bath. By the time I was done, I wrapped myself in my robe and came downstairs. I'd almost convinced myself I could do it. Pretend, smile, play the part. And then I heard it. The front door. Keys dangling. The familiar creak. "Babe." Marcus's voice called out. I froze. He wasn't supposed to be back until the next day. I hadn't prepared for this. "Hey," I said quickly, pasting a smile on my face as I came around the corner. "You're back early?" He set his bag down, walked toward me and pulled me into a hug. I stiffened for a split second before melting into it. "I missed you," he murmured against my hair. "Work wrapped sooner than expected, so I figured I'd surprise you." He leaned back, studying my face. "You look different," he said slowly. "Tired." I forced a laugh. "I didn't sleep great while you were gone." He kissed me gently. "Well, I'm here now." And just like that, he moved past me into the kitchen, asking if we had any coffee left, like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't been in another man's bed hours earlier. Like I wasn't still trembling inside from what Derek had done to me. Not just to my body but to my loyalty, my truth, my marriage. I watched Marcus open the cabinet, completely trusting. Totally in love. And I felt sick. Because no matter how hot the affair had burned, this was the part that always scorched the most. The next morning felt like a balancing act on a tightrope. I floated through the kitchen, poured coffee, folded laundry, played the role I was supposed to. Marcus was cheerful. He kept talking about the conference, how he wanted to show me some photos and notes later. I nodded, smiled when he looked, and died a little inside when he didn't. My phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number. But I knew that rhythm like my own heartbeat. I glanced at it once, heart slamming against my ribs. Then Marcus's phone rang. He picked it up casually, not thinking twice. "Hey man. What's up?" I stood frozen, staring at the window like I wasn't listening to every word. "Oh yeah. I'm back in town already." Marcus said. "Yeah, sure, you can swing by. I still have the folder with those numbers in the study." I swallowed hard. Lila will be here, Marcus added. I've got a Zoom meeting in the other room anyway. Exactly what Derek wanted. 25 minutes later I heard the knock. It was sharp, confident, and familiar. Marcus waved from the living room, already clicking into his headset. Can you grab that, babe? I opened the door and nearly lost my breath. He looked exactly like he had yesterday. Sharp navy button-down. No tie. Rolled sleeves. And that look in his eyes. Dangerous, playful, and knowing. He stepped inside and barely waited for the door to click shut before leaning in, his voice grazing my ear. Miss me? I didn't answer. I couldn't. Studies down the hall, I whispered, moving quickly, aware Marcus could see if he turned around. Derek followed silently, carrying nothing but the weight of every bad decision I hadn't stopped making. We stepped inside and I shut the study door quietly behind us. Derek turned, set the act aside, and looked me over like he hadn't already memorized every inch. You look flushed, he said softly. Is your husband keeping you satisfied? I hated how fast my body responded. How badly I wanted to say no. He crossed the room in 2 slow steps, backed me against the bookshelf, his voice low and electric. 10 minutes, he murmured. That's all I need to remind you who you really want. I whimpered before I could stop myself. Derek's eyes lit up, like he'd just confirmed what he already knew. I was his the second I opened the door. He didn't speak. He just stepped in, shut the study door behind him with one hand and pinned me to it with the other. His body was a wall. Solid, commanding, completely in control. The quiet pressure of his hips against mine told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't here to talk. He was here to take. You've missed this, he whispered, voice rough, his breath hot against my neck. I didn't answer. But my body did. He kissed me, deep and hard. One hand cupping my face, the other sliding under the thin fabric of my robe. My breath hitched and I grabbed at his shirt, tugging it loose from his pants like instinct had taken over. Every second felt dangerous. Because in the next room Marcus was on a video call. I could still hear him talking, laughing, trusting. That's what made this worse. What made it impossible to resist. Derek lifted me with ease, setting me down on the study desk with a firm thud, papers scattering under me. My robe fell open and his mouth was everywhere. Neck, collarbone, down the line of my chest. I gasped, quickly catching the sound in my throat. I couldn't risk being heard. He didn't care. His hands were already gripping my thighs, spreading me for him with a slow, hungry control. The moment he entered me, I had to bite down on my own knuckle to stay silent. The stretch, the fullness, it was too much, too good, too dangerous. And he knew it. Derek moved like he owned me. Deep, deliberate thrusts that sent jolts through my core. One hand around my neck, not choking, just reminding me who was in charge. His forehead pressed against mine and every breath we shared felt stolen. Look at you, he whispered. Falling apart for me, with your husband 10 feet away. My hands clawed at his back. My body was burning, straining to stay quiet as wave after wave crashed through me. It was overwhelming. Devastating. Exactly what I'd been aching for. And just before it all tipped over, Marcus's voice called faintly from the hallway. Babe, have you seen the red folder? My eyes flew open. Derek didn't stop. He just grinned. Say nothing, he whispered. Let him keep trusting you. And right then, while my husband searched for a file I could barely remember, I came undone in the arms of the man who had ruined me all over again. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe for more spicy stories.